I was putting the finishing touches on the crib. Sawdust scattered across my jeans as I drilled the last holes for the safety rail. My son would be sleeping here soon. Just thinking about his tiny hands gripping these wooden bars made my heart swell with pride. Then I heard Amanda's voice from the living room. "I don't love him. I never did. He's a paycheck with hands." Her mother responded coldly, "We'll get custody when he breaks." Then Sophie, my stepdaughter, whispered, "Can I spit in his food?" I kept drilling. Never looked up. Where are you watching from today? If this story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe to hear how I handled what came next. I met Amanda at a company party 4 years ago. Back then, my life felt complete on its own. I had a successful career as a structural engineer with a salary that let me live comfortably in a downtown apartment. I never thought I needed more until she walked into the room. Amanda worked in the marketing department. With her confident smile and quick wit, she immediately caught my attention. She was beautiful, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in my work when I explained my latest project. What really drew me in was how she talked about her daughter Sophie, who was 11 at the time. The way she described being a single mom after her divorce showed such strength and dedication. "Sophie is my whole world," she told me that night. "Any man in my life would need to understand that." I respected that about her. My own parents had divorced when I was young, and my father had never been present. I admired her commitment to her daughter. Our courtship moved quickly. I found myself completely captivated by Amanda. I sent flowers to her office, took her to fancy restaurants, and bought her expensive gifts. Initially, she seemed hesitant to let me into her life, but gradually she opened up. She introduced me to Sophie after we had been dating for a month. Sophie was polite but distant during our first meeting. Amanda explained that her daughter was just protective after seeing her mother hurt in her previous marriage. I understood completely and promised myself I would earn her trust over time. 6 months after our first date, I proposed. The wedding Amanda wanted was extravagant. I happily paid for everything, wanting her to have the perfect day. The ceremony was beautiful, and as we exchanged vows, I truly believed we would spend the rest of our lives together. I imagined us growing old, surrounded by children and eventually grandchildren. I pictured Sophie eventually seeing me as a father figure. "I promise to always put you and Sophie first," I whispered to Amanda during our first dance. "We're going to be so happy," she replied, looking deeply into my eyes. I believed her completely. The changes began almost immediately after we returned from our honeymoon. Amanda announced she wanted to quit her job to be a full-time mom for Sophie. She explained that Sophie was entering her teenage years and needed more guidance and support. "She needs me at home, David." "You understand, right?" Amanda asked, her eyes wide. "Your salary is enough for all of us." Of course, I agreed. I wanted both of them to be happy, and if my working harder could provide that, I was willing to make the sacrifice. I took on additional projects at work, often staying late into the evening, to make sure everything was perfect. The financial demands increased steadily. Amanda insisted we needed a bigger house and a better school district for Sophie. Then came a new car, because the old one wasn't safe enough. Sophie needed to attend an exclusive private school because public education just would not provide the opportunities she deserves. Each request seemed reasonable on its own, but they quickly added up. Meanwhile, Sophie remained distant. My attempts to connect with her through shared activities or helping with homework were met with cold indifference. At best, outright rejection at worst. I told myself she just needed time to adjust to having a stepfather. "She will come around eventually," Amanda assured me whenever I expressed concern. "These things take time." 3 years into our marriage, Amanda shared news that made me forget all our struggles. She was pregnant. We were going to have a baby. I was going to be a father. "It is a boy," she told me, after her first ultrasound. The doctor had confirmed it. I felt a joy unlike anything I had ever experienced before. A son. I immediately started thinking about everything I would teach him, the relationship we would build, the father I would be for him. All the things my own father had never been. Amanda had different priorities. "We need to move to the suburbs," she declared. "This neighborhood is not good enough for raising a baby." I agreed, even though it meant a longer commute to work. We found a house in an upscale neighborhood with excellent schools. The mortgage payments were steep, but I took on even more projects to cover the cost. I often worked through the night, catching a few hours of sleep before heading back to the office. "You are working too much," Amanda complained. "You are never home." "I am doing this for us," I explained. "For our future." She would sigh and walk away, leaving me feeling guilty and confused. I was doing everything I thought a good husband and father should do. Why did it never seem to be enough? As Amanda's pregnancy progressed, her demands escalated. Nothing was good enough for our unborn son. The nursery needed to be repainted 3 times, until the shade of blue was exactly right. The furniture had to be from the most expensive boutique baby store in the city. The stroller needed to be the same brand used by celebrities. Her parents began visiting more frequently. They had never been particularly warm toward me, but now they barely concealed their disdain. They would talk about Amanda's ex-husband, comparing his accomplishments to mine, always finding me lacking. "Sophie's father was already a partner at his firm by your age," her father would comment casually over dinner. "And he never had to work weekends," her mother would add. I tried to not let it bother me. They were just protective of their daughter, I reasoned. I would prove my worth to them over time. What hurt more was being excluded from prenatal appointments. Amanda always had an excuse why I could not accompany her. "The doctor is just doing a quick check," or "Mom is coming with me this time." I wanted to be involved in every aspect of my son's life, even before his birth. I wanted to see the ultrasounds, hear his heartbeat, ask the doctor questions. Instead, I was limited to secondhand information from Amanda, who seemed increasingly distant. She spent more and more time away from home. Shopping for baby items turned into all-day excursions with her mother or friends. She often returned late, offering vague explanations about where she had been. "You would not understand," she would say when I asked for details. "It is just pregnancy stuff." I tried to tell myself it was just the stress and hormones of pregnancy. Things would improve after our son was born. We would be a real family then. Meanwhile, Sophie grew even more hostile. She was 15 now, and made no secret of her dislike for me. She ignored my questions at dinner, rolled her eyes when I spoke, and made cutting remarks when her mother was not in the room. "No one wants you here," she told me one evening when we were alone. "Mom just needed someone to pay the bills after Dad left." I was shocked by her bluntness, but tried to respond calmly. "I love your mother, Sophie. And I care about you too. I hope someday you will give me a chance to show that." She scoffed and walked away. When I mentioned the incident to Amanda, she dismissed it. "She is a teenager, David. They say hurtful things they do not mean. You are being too sensitive." The arguments about finances became more frequent. Amanda consistently overspent our budget, and when I tried to discuss it, she accused me of being controlling or cheap. "Do you want our son to have less than Sophie had?" she would ask, effectively ending any conversation. I felt increasingly alone in my own home. The connection I had once felt with Amanda seemed to be fading, but I held on to the hope that our son's birth would bring us back together. When Amanda went into labor, I rushed to the hospital, excited and nervous. But at reception, I discovered her parents had already arrived. "She wants her mother with her," the nurse explained apologetically. "Hospital policy only allows 2 people in the delivery room." I sat in the waiting room for hours, watching other fathers come and go, sharing the magical moment of their children's births. Amanda's father occasionally emerged to get coffee, barely acknowledging my presence. After what felt like an eternity, I was finally allowed to see my son, Michael David Patterson. He was perfect. Tiny fingers, button nose, wisps of dark hair. When I held him for the first time, I made a silent promise to always protect him, to be the father I never had. Amanda watched impassively as I cradled our son. She seemed more interested in taking photos to post online than sharing this profound moment with me. Her mother hovered nearby, instructing me on the proper way to hold a newborn, though I had researched infant care extensively during the pregnancy. The days at the hospital passed in a blur. I took time off work to be there, but Amanda preferred her mother's help and advice. I felt like an outsider watching my own family from a distance. When it came time to prepare for Michael's homecoming, I wanted everything to be perfect. I suggested buying a crib from a high-end baby store that Amanda had previously admired. "That one is not good enough," she declared after I showed her the website. "Besides, it looks mass-produced." "What would you prefer?" I asked. She showed me a custom-made crib from an artisan in Italy. The price was more than 3 times what I had budgeted. "I cannot afford that right now," I admitted. Her disappointment was palpable. "I guess Michael will just have to make do with less." That night, I had an idea. I had worked with wood during college building furniture to earn extra money. I could make a crib for my son. Something unique, crafted with love, stronger and safer than anything in a store. "I will build Michael's crib myself," I announced the next morning. Amanda seemed skeptical but did not object. I spent every free moment designing the perfect crib. I selected the finest hardwood, researched safety standards, and purchased specialized tools. Each evening after work, I would head to the garage to cut sand and prepare the pieces. "This is going to be an heirloom," I told Michael during his late-night feedings. "Something you can use for your children someday." The weekend before Michael's first month at home, Amanda announced she was taking him to visit her parents. "You can finish the crib without distractions," she said, almost seeming thoughtful. I was disappointed to be separated from my son, but grateful for the uninterrupted time to complete my project. I planned to assemble all the pieces in the nursery where the crib would stand. That Saturday morning I woke early, eager to begin. The house was quiet without Michael's cries and Amanda's constant critiques of my parenting. I carried the wooden components upstairs to the nursery and began the careful process of assembly. The morning light filtered through the nursery curtains as I meticulously arranged the crib parts on the floor. Each piece had been sanded, smooth edges rounded for safety, and treated with non-toxic finish. I had spent weeks preparing everything to meet the highest safety standards. This crib would be my gift to Michael, something made with more care than anything money could buy. I was attaching the first side rail when I heard the front door open downstairs. Amanda's voice carried up the stairs, followed by her mother's. They were back much earlier than expected. I checked my watch. It was barely past noon, and Amanda had said they would return in the evening. "Let me put Michael down for his nap," I heard Amanda say. "Then we need to talk." I continued working carefully, aligning the dowels with their corresponding holes. The drill hummed steadily in my hands as I secured each joint with precision. Footsteps moved across the floor below, then up the stairs, and into the master bedroom adjacent to the nursery. The baby monitor on my tool belt crackled as it picked up sounds from Michael's temporary bassinet in their room. After a few minutes more, voices joined the conversation. Amanda's father had apparently arrived, and Sophie's distinctive teenage tone indicated she was home too. They gathered in the living room directly below the nursery. Their voices carried clearly through the old heating vent in the floor, a quirk of the house's design that I had noticed weeks ago but never mentioned. I was about to call down to let them know. I could hear them when Amanda's words stopped me cold. "I do not love him. I never did. He is a paycheck with hands." The drill nearly slipped from my grasp. I froze, listening intently. "You did what you had to do, honey," her mother replied. "After Tom left you with nothing, you needed security." "I know," Amanda sighed, "but it is exhausting pretending all the time. At least Tom was interesting. David is so boring, so eager to please. Always working, never questioning anything I do." "The important thing is you have Michael now," her father interjected. "A son to carry on the family name." "And his house," her mother added. "We will get custody when he breaks. With his work schedule and your documentation of his absences, no judge would give him more than weekend visitation." My hands trembled as I processed what I was hearing. Documentation. Had she been building a case against me all this time? "Can I spit in his food?" Sophie asked, her voice casual, as if inquiring about the weather. Amanda laughed. "No, sweetie, we need to be smarter than that." "I have been watching those true crime shows," Sophie continued. "There are ways to make someone look crazy. Like moving things around so he thinks he is losing his mind. That is actually not a bad idea, Amanda's mother said approvingly. Men like him are already under so much stress. A little push in the right direction. The credit card debt alone will bury him, Amanda's father added. He has no idea how much you have actually spent, does he? No, Amanda replied, and I could hear the smile in her voice. He just pays the minimum each month. Never checks the statements. I kept drilling mechanically, continuing my work as their words washed over me. My entire body felt numb, disconnected from the betrayal unfolding below. 4 years of my life, all my hopes and dreams revealed as nothing but a calculated scheme. How long do you think before you can file for divorce? Her mother asked. I need to wait until Michael is at least 6 months old, Amanda replied. I have been keeping a journal of all David's parenting mistakes. How he holds the bottle wrong, how he does not support Michael's head properly, how he works too much to bond properly. All lies, I whispered to myself, thinking of the nights I had spent rocking Michael, while Amanda slept, the research I had done on infant development, the love I poured into every interaction with my son. The house will sell for at least twice what he paid, her father noted, and with child support and alimony you will be set for years. What about the new guy you have been seeing? Sophie asked, her voice dropping slightly. Jackson, I nearly dropped the drill. Amanda giggled like a schoolgirl. He wants to meet Michael next week. Says he is ready to be a father figure. Better not let David find out, her mother cautioned. Not until everything is in place. He is too busy building that stupid crib to notice anything, Amanda replied dismissively. He actually thinks a homemade piece of furniture proves something, as if we would ever use it instead of the Bellini I ordered last week. I looked down at the half-assembled crib, each piece carved and finished by hand during stolen hours after long workdays. Hours I could have spent holding my son had Amanda not invented excuses to keep me away. We should head upstairs to check on Michael, Amanda said. David will be drilling away for hours. He never notices anything when he is working. I heard them rising, preparing to come upstairs. With mechanical precision, I continued assembling the crib, my mind racing far ahead of my hands. Every moment of our relationship replayed in my thoughts, recontextualized by what I had just learned. The expensive gifts, the rushed marriage, the constant financial demands, the strategic isolation from my son. As they ascended the stairs, I made a decision. I would not confront them, not yet. I would finish this crib, this symbol of the father I had intended to be, the father I would still become regardless of Amanda's betrayal. They passed by the nursery door. Amanda glanced in briefly. Still at it, she asked casually. Almost done, I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. Just a few more hours. She nodded, and continued to the bedroom, completely unaware that her carefully constructed facade had crumbled. I kept drilling, never looking up, as my mind formulated a plan to save myself and my son from the web of lies I had unwittingly entered. I worked on the crib until sunset, methodically completing each step as if nothing had changed. Inside I felt hollow, as though someone had scooped out my insides, and left nothing but an empty shell. Yet somehow my hands remained steady, finishing the project I had started with such hope and love. When the last screw was in place, I stood back and examined my work. The crib was beautiful, sturdy oak, with gentle curves and intricate details carved into the headboard. I had planned to engrave Michael's name and birth date, but now I left it blank. A clean slate, much like the one I would need to create for myself. I cleaned up the sawdust and tools, wiped down the crib, and headed downstairs. Amanda and her family were in the kitchen, laughing over takeout dinner. They fell silent when I entered. Is it finished? Amanda asked, her smile not reaching her eyes. Yes, I replied simply. I need to get some air. Going for a drive. Dinner will be cold when you get back, she said. Not really a protest. I will get something on the road. I grabbed my keys and wallet and walked out. Once in my car, I sat motionless for several minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Then I started the engine and drove, no destination in mind, just away from the life I had thought was real. Hours passed as I circled the city, my thoughts chaotic, yet increasingly focused. Around midnight, I checked into a hotel downtown, a place Amanda would never look for me. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the generic hotel artwork and made my first call. Mark. It is David. I know it is late, but I need legal advice. Now. Mark had been my college roommate before becoming a family law attorney. He listened without interruption as I explained what I had overheard. Jesus, David, he finally said. This is calculated. He's 77T. Compson 12. 27T. They have been planning this from the start. I know. I replied, my voice flat. What do I do? First, do not confront her yet. Document everything. Get access to your financial records. Set up recording devices if legal in your state. And most importantly, start building your case for custody. She is going to claim I am an absent father, I said, the pain fresh with each word. Then prove her wrong. Take photos with Michael. Keep records of all the time you spend with him. Ask your employer for more flexible hours, so you can be home more. What about the house? The debt. We will get to that. One step at a time. Your priority is Michael. After hanging up, I lay back on the unfamiliar bed, sleep impossible. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, my mind replaying years of manipulation. How had I been so blind? The signs were all there. Amanda's initial resistance followed by sudden interest once she learned my salary. Her immediate desire to quit working after marriage. The constant comparison to Sophie's father, always emphasizing his wealth over his character. With the first light of morning, I began implementing Mark's advice. I contacted my bank and credit card companies requesting complete statements for the past 4 years. I called my office explaining I needed to work remotely for a few days due to family issues. I researched private investigators and scheduled appointments with 3 different family law attorneys to find the right representation. By noon, I had rented a furnished apartment with a month-to-month lease and a second bedroom for Michael. I bought basic necessities, including a portable crib that broke my heart to purchase after all the work I had put into building one. I did not return to the house that day or the next. Amanda's calls and messages grew increasingly frantic, then angry, then threatening. Where are you? Her first voicemail demanded. Michael needs you. By the 3rd day, if you do not come home immediately, I am calling the police to report abandonment. I responded only through brief texts stating I was safe and needed time to think. In reality, I was building my case with methodical precision. The financial records told a staggering story. Credit card debt exceeding 6 figures. Cash withdrawals from our joint account that I had never made. A paper trail of deception that stretched back to the earliest days of our marriage. On the 4th day, I returned to the house while Amanda was out. I knew her schedule from the calendar on our shared cloud account. I quickly gathered essential documents, photos, and a few personal items, including the baby clothes I had purchased for Michael before his birth. I left the crib exactly where it stood in the nursery. A silent testament to broken promises. My phone rang as I was leaving. It was Amanda. The neighbor just called. She said she saw your car. What are you doing at the house? Just picking up some things, I replied calmly. I will be gone before you get home. You cannot just leave us. What about Michael? What about your responsibilities? The audacity nearly broke my composure. I am not abandoning my son Amanda, but our marriage is over. What are you talking about? Her voice rose an octave. Is there someone else? The irony was almost laughable. No, Amanda. There is no one else. But I heard your conversation with your parents. All of it. Silence on the line then. I do not know what you think you heard, but... I heard enough, I interrupted. We will communicate through attorneys from now on. I hung up as she began to protest her words, cutting off mid-sentence. Within minutes, my phone exploded, with calls and texts from her. Her parents. Even Sophie. I silenced it and finished loading my car. That evening, I met with the attorney. I had selected a woman with a reputation for aggressive advocacy in custody cases. She reviewed the evidence I had gathered and nodded approvingly. They underestimated you, she said. They thought you would fall apart, but instead you built a case. I want custody of my son, I stated firmly. Nothing else matters. It will be a fight, she warned. She has been setting this up for months, maybe years. Then we better get started. The legal process moved with excruciating slowness. Emergency hearings, temporary orders, evaluations. Each day away from Michael felt like torture, but I used the time to transform my apartment into a proper home for a baby. I took parenting classes, joined a support group for single fathers, and adjusted my work schedule to allow for more time at home. Amanda launched her attack exactly as predicted, claiming I was a workaholic who had abandoned his family. She produced her fabricated journal of my parenting failures, along with tearful testimony about my erratic behavior and concerning outbursts. Her parents corroborated her stories, painting me as an absent, disinterested father who had walked out on his newborn son. My attorney systematically dismantled their narrative with evidence. My phone records showed dozens of calls to pediatricians and baby supply stores. Photos recovered from my cloud storage documented the nights I had spent caring for Michael while Amanda slept. Coworkers testified about how often I spoke about my son, showed his pictures, and adjusted my schedule to be home for him. Then came the financial evidence. The credit card statements. The hidden accounts. The trail of deceit that suggested Amanda had been planning her exit strategy from the beginning. One morning 3 weeks into our separation, I opened my apartment door to find Amanda and her mother standing there, both with tears streaming down their faces. "Please, David," Amanda sobbed. "We need to talk. This has gone too far." I looked at them standing in the hallway, these women who had plotted to destroy me, who had seen me not as a person but as a resource to be exploited. In Amanda's arms was Michael, his tiny face peaceful in sleep, unaware of the battle being fought over his future. "Any communication needs to go through my attorney," I said quietly, beginning to close the door. "I made a mistake," Amanda cried, her foot blocking the door. "I said things I did not mean. Please, for Michael's sake." I looked at my son, my heart aching to hold him. But I knew this was another manipulation, another attempt to regain control. If I showed weakness now, I would lose everything. "For Michael's sake," I replied, "I will see you in court." The day of the custody hearing arrived 6 weeks after I had left the house. I sat beside my attorney, hands clasped tightly on the table to hide their trembling. Across the aisle, Amanda dabbed at her eyes with a tissue while her mother held Michael. They had dressed him in an outfit I had never seen, making him look like a stranger. My attorney had prepared me for what would come. Amanda's team would paint me as cold, calculating, obsessed with work, and indifferent to my family's emotional needs. They would emphasize my absence during crucial weeks of Michael's early development. They would question my ability to balance career and parenthood. What they were not prepared for was the evidence we had gathered. The judge reviewed it all with a stoic expression. Photographs of the crib I had built, bank statements showing Amanda's excessive spending, recordings of her parents discussing their plans for when he breaks, provided by household staff, who had overheard similar conversations and came forward after learning of our separation. Most damaging was the testimony from Amanda's previous husband, who described an identical pattern. How she had pursued him for his money, isolated him from their daughter, and systematically undermined him until their divorce. How she had used Sophie as a weapon against him, poisoning their relationship. How he now saw his daughter, only rarely, her affection for him eroded by years of Amanda's manipulation. When the judge finally spoke, her words were measured, but clear. The evidence presented suggests a troubling pattern of behavior on the part of Mrs. Patterson. While both parents clearly care for their child, the court must consider which environment will provide stability and emotional security. She awarded me primary physical custody, with Amanda granted supervised visitation until a full psychological evaluation could be completed. The courtroom fell silent as she delivered her ruling. Then Amanda began to wail, a sound of raw disbelief that her carefully constructed plan had failed. "This is not over," her mother hissed as they left the courtroom. "She will appeal." My attorney squeezed my shoulder. "We will be ready." That evening, I brought Michael home to our apartment for the first time. I had everything prepared: the room, painted in soft blues and greens, stocked with diapers, formula, and clothes. The only thing missing was the crib I had built with such love and care. I will make you another one, I promised, as I laid him in the store-bought crib. Even better than the first. The transition to single fatherhood was not easy. Michael woke throughout the night, unfamiliar with his surroundings. End of theirs. I made her. Transition to single fatherhood was not easy. End of trauth. End of trams. End of dot. Tram. Trams. End. I learned to function on minimal sleep balancing bottles and diaper changes with conference calls and project deadlines. My employer proved surprisingly supportive, allowing me to work remotely 3 days a week. As the months passed, Amanda's appeals failed one after another. The psychological evaluation recommended continuing supervised visitation, citing concerns about her manipulative tendencies and inability to prioritize her child's needs over her own. Her parents stopped attending the visitations after the first few, apparently losing interest once it became clear their plan had failed. Sophie, now 16, refused to see me at all. I sent birthday and Christmas gifts that were returned unopened. I hoped that someday, when she was older and able to see beyond her mother's influence, we might rebuild some kind of relationship. But I accepted that might never happen. A year after that fateful day in the nursery, I bought a small house with a yard where Michael could play. The mortgage was modest, well within my means. In the garage, I set up a woodworking shop. And on weekends, Michael would sit in his bouncer watching as I built furniture for our new home. The crib came first. I poured everything I had learned about craftsmanship into its creation. Each joint was perfect, each curve smooth as silk. On the headboard, I carved Michael's full name and birth date along with the words "built with love that cannot be broken." As I worked, I thought about the lessons I would teach my son as he grew. Not just how to build things with his hands, but how to build a life of integrity and self-respect. How to recognize true love and reject manipulation. How to stand firm in the face of betrayal. One evening, as I put Michael to bed in his new crib, he reached up and touched my face with his tiny hand. His eyes, so like mine, gazed up with complete trust and love. In that moment, I knew that despite everything, I was exactly where I needed to be. Amanda still makes occasional attempts to increase her visitation rights. Her latest boyfriend has already come and gone. Her parents have relocated to Florida, apparently having given up on their grandson as a meal ticket. Sophie will graduate high school next year and plans to attend college across the country. As for me, I am learning that healing comes in small moments. In Michael's first steps across our living room floor. In bedtime stories and morning cuddles. In building a life centered on what truly matters rather than the hollow pursuit of someone else's approval. The betrayal still hurts when I allow myself to dwell on it. But I have learned that my worth is not determined by Amanda's assessment or anyone else's. I am not just a paycheck with hands. I am a father, a provider, a protector, and a builder of both furniture and futures. Most importantly, I am a man who refused to break when breaking was exactly what they counted on. I sometimes wonder if you have ever faced betrayal in your own life. Have you had to rebuild from the ground up after someone tried to tear down everything you believed in? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps me continue sharing these difficult life lessons. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the strongest structures rise from the rubble of what once seemed unbreakable.